Our next new Heroes banner has arrived. It is another 3 houses themed banner, not really surprising. This time we have a few of the students from the 3 houses. There is Hilda from the Golden Deer, Hubert from the Black Eagles, Mercedes from the Blue Lions, and Petra is also from the Black Eagles. We'll be talking about their stats, new weapons and skills, and then discuss playstyles and builds. Let's get into it. First up is Hilda. She's an infantry axe unit and my goodness is she a monster. Hilda has 43 HP, 37 attack, 37 speed, 28 defense, and 23 resistance. 37 attack and speed is absurdly good for an offensive stat line, and Hilda easily has the best spread among axe units. Somehow Commander Anna still has the highest base speed for axe units with 38, but that's not taking into account anything else. Hilda is pretty comparable to Summer Ilger, who is now available via Heroic Grails. Hilda has more tag and speed, while Ilger is a bit tankier. That said, Hilda has a crazy base kit. Mumbo is a fine special since she will be doubling often thanks to her tag and speed solo. Add another +6 to her already impressive offenses and Hilda is going to be quite scary. She also has no follow-up, so she won't be stopped by things like Worry Fighter, and she neutralizes all those guaranteed follow-up effects. Her C skill is Defense Opening, which grants the ally with the highest defense another +6 defense. This kind of is related to her weapon's effect. Hilda comes with her own special axe, Freikugo. This axe gives her a flat +3 speed, so Hilda reaches 40 speed with it equipped. It has a 2-part effect, so let's break it down. At the start of an ally's combat, if Hilda is within 2 spaces of any allies with defense higher than Hilda's, then she grants them +4 tag and speed during combat. Basically, Hilda buffs nearby allies if they have more defense than her. The second part of Freikugo is at the start of Hilda's combat. If Hilda is now within 2 spaces of allies with more defense than herself, then she gets a +6 attack and speed boost. Freikugo depends on whether or not Hilda is nearby an ally with more defense than herself. If the answer is yes, then she buffs them. If the answer is no, then Hilda takes it upon herself to do the work and buffs herself. Since you have full control on your team's composition, it comes down to whether or not you want Hilda to buff teammates or buff herself. She can do both, but if we're being honest, it's pretty tough to not want Hilda to get those buffs. So Hilda is basically set out of the box. Just with Freikugo buffing herself, she can reach 59 attack and 46 speed. That's not even including attack and speed solo. So yeah, Hilda is a beast. One issue is whether or not you keep defense opening. It buffs an ally's defense, but if you want Hilda to self-buff, then obviously you don't necessarily want this. That said, Freikugo can also act like a super solo skill, because if Hilda is now within 2 spaces of an ally, then she gets the attack and speed buff anyway. It's fine to keep Hilda near the team to buff up some tanky allies and then have her go off on her own to just destroy whoever is in her way. Now, I don't think there's a perfect build to strive for, but we got a lot of fun options. With her speed, Hilda is a great candidate for Flashing Blade 4 since her weapon can provide extra speed. Obviously, she will be able to run desperation setups if you wish, and you have good dueling skills like Wrath also available. If you want some defensive skills, Close Defense, Attack Smoke, or a Brazen Defense or Res ability will be great options. Overall, Hilda's base stats are so good that even if Freikugo doesn't activate, it's not like she's in a bad spot. The thing is that when she does get that self buff and then attack and speed solo, well, Hilda is not going to be easy to deal with. You could go a team buffing route with Hilda, but it's really tough to pass up on her great stats, and it's definitely worthwhile to let her run wild. Our second unit is Hubert, who is the second in command of the Black Eagles and loyal to Edelgard. I'm playing as the Black Eagles in my first playthrough of 3 houses, and I love Hubert because he absolutely embraces that scary, intimidating persona. Turns out he's also a beastly mage, and in Heroes that looks to be the case as well. Hubert is an infantry red mage. He has 41 HP, 39 attack, 32 speed, 19 defense, and 25 resistance. Hubert has the highest base attack for all mages, and with 39 attack paired with 32 speed, that ain't so bad. A lot of the other red mages are quite slow, so Hubert is in a great spot. His defenses are alright, but nothing too spectacular. For old skills, Hubert has the Growing Thunder special. I think this might be a reference to the battalion he gets in 3 houses, since their Gambit is an AoE lightning attack. He also has Cho Res, which debuffs the highest res enemy with -7 resistance. Makes sense, Hubert is willing to play dirty, and with his high attack he definitely benefits a lot from some sneaky debuffs. Hubert introduces a new inheritable tome called Rotter Fox Plus. I'll just be referring to it as a Fox Tome from here on. These new Fox Tomes have 12 might, and when unit initiates combat, inflict -4 to all stats on the foe during combat. This is a neat little weapon. In combat debuffs are pretty annoying because like in combat buffs, there's literally no counter to them. You can also think of -4 debuffs on the enemy like giving +4s to your stats on your unit. So Sparrow gives my unit +4 attack and speed, the Fox Tome inflicting -4 speed is the same as if I gained +4 speed, and then the enemy losing -4 res is the same as gaining +4 attack. So honestly this Fox Tome is pretty good. The in combat debuffs will stack with regular field debuffs, so that means the Fox Tome will stack with chill res. Since Hubert has a ton of attack, he gets even more damage, and since his speed is not that bad, he can actually take advantage of the speed debuff on the enemy. Overall, I think this is a pretty good weapon. Next we have Infantry Hexblade 3. This C skill is a buffing skill and it affects adjacent infantry allies who use swords, lances, axes, bows, and daggers. Those allies get +2 attack and speed and also the adaptive damage effect, meaning they can target the enemy's res stat if their defense is higher. Some things to note, Infantry Hexblade is only inheritable by infantry mages, and its effect does not work on infantry beast units. This skill is basically Sorcery Blade, but shifted into the C skill and acts as a supportive buff. Adaptive damage is really good against high defense units who have really low res stats, and depending on how well you position your units, it can work on either phase. Another neat skill for your infantry teams. Hubert is a pretty simple unit. The Fox Tome is geared for player phase initiations, and Hubert gets to use his insanely high attack to mess up his enemies. Assuming you can refine this Fox Tome, I would go with the 2 extra speed or maybe resistance. For skills, there's nothing wrong with something like Death Blow or Sturdy Impact. Hubert could also use Heavy Blade to charge up his AoE special, or even something like Glimmer, which works very well with the debuffs on the enemy. Throwing some extra speed into the mix is also great, and with the speed refined Fox Tome, basically adding +6 speed on initiations, I think Hubert could run Desperation if he also had another speed increasing skill. Still, Hubert has good synergy with chill res, and in the future if a low res skill gets made, then that would be a good with the Fox Tomes. You would get the -4 debuff from the Tome, and then the -3 res debuff from the low skill for -7 res on anyone you initiate on. For the most part, Hubert isn't that complicated. Great attack and okay speed will make him best suited for offensive builds. Obviously, a Blade Tome is perfectly fine should you want even more damage. Our third student is Mercedes. She is an infantry healer and has 39 HP, 33 attack, 30 speed, 22 defense, and 33 resistance. Mercedes isn't going to be game changing by any means. Her attack is not bad and her speed is about average. 39 HP, 22 defense aren't much different from a lot of infantry healers, although her 33 res is on the higher side. She can definitely take some shots from a mage. For old skills, Mercedes has the Gravity Plus staff, being able to lock down enemies. Martyr Plus heals more if Mercedes is injured, but I wouldn't exactly want to put her in harm's way. Her special is Miracle, which is fine if you wanted to survive one death blow. Her C skill is Odd Res Wave, which grants her and adjacent allies +6 res every odd numbered turn. That is a nice support skill since Mercedes has decent res. Her one new skill is ARD, Speed and Res 3. Another 8 through raids only skill. This one is at least for defense, which I think is at least a somewhat viable. Depending on the number of defense structures you have on the field, this skill grants up to 10 speed and res, with the amount getting lower and lower the more enemy destroys your structures. Obviously, since this only works for defense teams, it's partly on you to place those structures in safe spots, preferably in the back where the attackers must fight your units first to get to them. The extra speed and res is nice for Mercedes herself, although if you want to use her outside of 8th raids, then you should replace this skill with anything else you got. In terms of builds and playstyles, Mercedes is not going to have anything unique just for her. You can replace her staff, healing assist skill, and special to your liking. For B skills, you got the usual choices like Wings of Mercy to assist allies, or Wrathful Staff if you want poor Mercy to get her hands dirty. With her highish res stat, she can run ploy skills if you want long range debuffs. Otherwise, any of the usual buffs will serve fine. Something I do want to discuss for a little bit is a new build for infantry healers by the time this video and banner are out, so this will be gone. But if you really just like healers or really love customizing them, then you can think about getting Times Pulse for an infantry healer like Mercedes. Times Pulse grants -1 special cooldown if you start the turn with a special at its maximum cooldown timer. Turns out a lot of the healing specials have 1 cooldown, so you can probably see where this is going. For example, take the newer Bomb Plus specials. These grant +6 to 2 stats for the whole team when it activates. Every turn, Times Pulse charges the Bomb special, and when Mercedes heals someone, she buffs the whole team. Combine this with the Restore Plus assist, which can cure debuffs and status effects, and your healer can potentially buff everyone even if they're at full HP. They would have to be debuffed for Restore to work, but still it's a nice option. Either way, if you're going to be using a healer for something like PvE content and you're constantly healing, then this combo would allow you to give your whole team a ton of buffs from anywhere on the map. It's incredibly expensive to sacrifice one of the newest skills in the game, not to mention Times Pulse has a ton of other uses for anyone other than your healer. Unfortunately, there's just not much to discuss for new healers with no unique skills, but this was something fun I was thinking about. If you want an impressive, uncounterable healer that can reach 57 attack and 47 speed, then you'll want Brave Camilla later this month. Our last unit is Petra. She's a flying blue dagger unit, which definitely may seem a bit odd, but I think the dagger is to represent that she makes a pretty darn good assassin in 3 houses, plus she does have a strength in flying when you instruct her. Petra's stats include 40 HP, 32 attack, 38 speed, 25 defense, and 20 resistance. Very good speed and a nice 32 attack when sure Petra makes those doubles hurt. She's definitely built for offensive play, although her HP, defense, and res aren't super low. She can take some hits, but don't expect her to be a long-term tank. Petra's old skills include Luna as her special. Her defense or res aren't spectacular, so Luna or Moonbow will probably be the go-to specials. Petra also has aerobatics, which allows a flyer to move to an adjacent space next to any infantry, armored, or cavalry ally within 2 spaces. Her C skill is then ground orders, which grants the same effect to her infantry, armored, or cavalry allies, and they can also move next to a flying unit like Petra too. 2 mobility skills, and both encourage the use of non-flying allies. Petra's weapon is the Hunting Blade. It comes with accelerated special trigger and it's also effective against beast units. Both are pretty handy abilities. However, there is another effect. At the start of combat, if Petra's attack, speed, defense, or res is less than that of an ally within 2 spaces, then Petra gets +5 to the corresponding stat during combat. Each stat is calculated independently. So basically, if an ally near Petra has more attack than her, she gets +5 attack during combat. If they have more speed, she gets more speed, and so on and so forth. This applies to any allies within 2 spaces, but it's possible for Petra to get the full +5 to all stats if an ally has higher stats than Petra in every category. I like to think of it like Petra is learning from her stronger allies, so that's pretty cool. With her double mobility skills, she can dart around her teammates and allow her team to move around each other as well. The goal is to ensure Petra is near the allies with stats she wants to borrow. Petra also has a new A skill called Attack and Speed Form. This skill grants attack and speed +X to unit during combat. X is equal to the number of allies within 2 spaces times 2, and then you add +1 after. This is similar to the Owl Tome effect, just with 2 stats and a larger range. Bridal Sanaki and Tharja had unique weapons with this effect, but technically the form skill is better with that added +1. As an example, if Petra has 1 nearby ally, she would get +3 attack and speed, 2 allies gets +5, and then 3 allies gets the +7, the maximum amount. Considering Petra's kit, this is a decent skill for her. For the most part, her base kit is all about positioning to activate both Hunting Blade and Attack and Speed Form. You want to pair Petra with units with really high stats, and that can be through merges, skills like Fury, or Field Buffs. The downfall of this kit is that Petra loses a lot of power if she initiates far from her teammates. If no one is within 2 spaces, she gets no stat boost, which is a shame. This may make Petra feel a bit awkward to use, but you can swap Attack and Speed Form out for a solo skill or Swift Sparrow if you want that consistent stat boost without worrying about allies. If you're okay playing around the team, then Petra can make some crazy moves with aerobatics and ground orders. Bond skills are fine if you plan to be next to allies anyway, and she can even add guidance for even more movement shenanigans. You do need to be careful when buffing Petra up. If she is the only one that gets buffed, then her stats may end up higher than her allies and Hunting Blade won't activate. You'll want to buff up everyone at the same time for those cases. Tactic buffs will be good for Petra herself since both her mobility skills want mixed team usage. She can also use the in-combat buffs just fine since her weapon does the stat check before combat begins. For the most part, Petra can definitely put out good damage, and she gets a lot of attack and speed if you can activate her weapon plus attack and speed form. She isn't necessarily meant for lone fighting, so that may not suit everyone's playstyles. Petra can pull it off, but you'll lose out on Hunting Blade plus her form A skill. That being said, she still has a slaying dagger with beast effectiveness, so I would say she's going to be okay. That wraps up this banner breakdown. Did anyone catch your fancy, or did you blow all your orbs already? Keep in mind, Choose Your Legends is probably the next banner, so yeah, it's tough to say going all in now is worth it, especially since we already know what to mostly expect from those guys. If you don't plan on using orbs, then our next free unit is the Death Knight, also from 3 houses. This bad boy has some amazing art, but man, he's just getting slaughtered by everyone, even more so than when facing Lysithea in the actual game. I'll throw my 2 cents into the ring about the Death Knight when his Grand Hero battle launches in a couple days. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.